Hello everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, and I'll start with a couple of announcements. One is that I'm of course flooded with emails daily. I cannot engage in one-on-one conversations back and forth with you with data. That's why we have a library, that's why we have a newsletter. We put a lot of this information with references in our weekly newsletter. And one other thing, when you're emailing me, I just want you to keep in mind that the numbers change from day to day, but the context does not change. Okay, so when you're screaming at me, and some of you like to do that, at the top of your lungs about a number that's outdated, understand that cases and deaths go up, but the ratio isn't changing, okay? So if anything, it's getting better. So anyway, I don't normally respond to email, but I had a special request to do that. So I'm gonna do it, respond to email in this type of setting. So this is an email exchange that happened with somebody who was very disturbed that, that I am not posting or allowing comments on my YouTube channel. And I responded to the person that the reason why we disabled the comments section was because of a glitch in YouTube that was causing the comments to go directly to the site rather than being quarantined until we could approve them. So one morning I got on the YouTube channel and found 700 horrifying emails using horrific foul language, threats to my life, threats to my family. There were some ethnic slurs of really egregious nature. And so we tried to contact YouTube about it. We shut off the comments. YouTube does not have any customer service except for people who take advertising. Well, I refuse to take advertising because I don't want to compromise my independence when I report things to you. So we can't take comments. So the person writes back, your answer is disingenuous. You received a lot of negative comments, so you disabled the section. That's a choice. That's a choice. You think that it would be better for me to allow people to threaten my life in public and scream and holler and use foul language. I mean, I can't even tell you, even with bleeps, some of the stuff is not readable on YouTube. And then the person goes on to say, 80,000 Americans have died so far from COVID-19. No, they have not. Apparently, this individual has not been keeping up with the news and hasn't gone on the CDC's site or looked at the documents or listened to Dr. Birx at 6 o'clock every night. She was on the air for a long time, where she actually instructed doctors and said, we are instructing doctors to count all deaths as COVID, even if the person died of something else, as long as they were positive for COVID-19 at the time of death. So no, sir, there are not 80,000 deaths. And so apparently not only does this person not understand, like when I write back and say we can't have ethnic slurs and threats on my life on my YouTube channel, totally doesn't get that. Still fixed on the fake news and determined to not hear any information or think critically. And then he says, do you understand you're making it more psychologically and emotionally difficult for people to make the sacrifices necessary to physically distance when you tell people that sheltering home is the wrong way to go? Well, I'm going to give you some evidence that it is the wrong way to go. So anyway, stay tuned just a little bit. I'm going to show you that that's absolutely the worst thing you can possibly do according to US data. The whole world is wrong, and you're right. No, the whole world is not wrong, and I'm not the only person who's saying this. Scientists from Stanford University and from some of the best European universities are saying the same thing. They are just not featured by the mainstream fake news. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure this person says, I challenge you to publish my comment. Well, I'm publishing most of it right here. And the bottom line is that I'm just astounded that somebody would respond to what I said about the comments on my YouTube channel being being as horrible as they were at disabling it. So anyway, so much for that. You challenged me to talk about it. I've talked about it. That's the last I'm going to talk about this. Couple of other things to tell you about. Last week's newsletter included an article about the origin of the virus, and this week's is a continuation. If you want the whole COVID collection, you must be a subscriber. We're not sending past articles to non-subscribers because we don't have the ability here to email individually articles to people. So if you want to be a subscriber, send an email to pampopper@msn.com. I need your first and last name and your email address, please, when you do that. A lot of you wanted to sign up for the free intro workshop, which is similar to the dinners that we've held here. We're doing it via Zoom. The next one is now Thursday, May 28th at noon Eastern Time. And if you want to sign up for that, it's a free workshop. We're going to talk about diet, health, and medicine. I speak for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we just open it up for open Q&A. It's a fun event, and I hope you'll choose to join us for one of these. I'm going to keep doing one every week or so, changing the time of day and all that sort of thing. People are very anxious during these times. We have a series of workshops with our fabulous therapist, Kylie Aurora. And if you want some information about that, again, pampopper@msn.com. So, and then remember, if you're thinking about changing careers, and a lot of people are during this or being forced to, pampopper@msn.com. I will send you information. We can set up a time to talk by phone and review your objectives and find out what's best for you to do. So I mentioned when I was responding to the person who wrote that I'm telling people it's not a good idea to shelter at home. This is going to blow your mind. According to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, most COVID-19 hospitalizations in New York State, 66%, are people who were sheltering at home and had almost no contact with the outside world. The data came from over 113 hospitals, reporting on 1,300 patients. To put this in perspective, the next highest group of hospitalizations was nursing homes at 18%. Elderly people in nursing homes have been thought to be the most vulnerable. I mean, that's the way it is every flu season, not just with this particular strain. But as it turns out, the public policy that is being instituted by most states and most countries, most states in the U.S. and most countries, is actually increasing the risk to being almost 3 times riskier. Our public health policy of lockdown, 3 times riskier, almost, than being an elderly person in a nursing home with comorbidities. Now, that's a public health statistic that's just almost hard to wrap your arms around. So, I guess I've been a little bit right about this, haven't I? Cuomo is claimed to be shocked about this. You know what he said? This is a surprise. Overwhelmingly, the people were at home. We thought maybe they were taking public transportation, and we've taken special precautions on public transportation, but actually no, because these people were literally at home. Cuomo said nearly 84% of the hospitalized cases were people who were not commuting to work through car services, personal cars, public transit, or walking. They were either retired or unemployed. So the bottom line is that the public health policy that is thought to flatten the curve. Remember the mantra, we have to flatten the curve. People are starving, we're flattening the curve. People are unemployed, flattening the curve, can't feed their families, we're flattening the curve, we're flattening the curve. And the curve is never flat enough for these people to let people out of their houses. And as it turns out, worst possible situation. Worst possible situation. Now, having said that, New York, Governor Cuomo announced that he's planning to hire 17,000 people to do contact tracing in order to isolate more people. Okay? He hasn't withdrawn that suggestion. In other words, you're 3 times more likely to end up in the hospital from staying at home, really staying at home, no contact with the outside world, and he's going to do more of it. And if you think I sound angry, I am angry. I'm angry about this, and I'm angry about the sheep that sit in front of the television set and watch some of this and don't put together that these two things don't possibly go together. You can't be hurting people by keeping them at home and then come up with another program to hurt more people by keeping them at home. Now, he hasn't really given a lot of details about this, but some other areas of the country have provided a lot of details about how they're going to do it. So anyway, in Ventura, California, the government announced that community contact tracing will be done to identify infected people. And the person who is infected will be immediately isolated and then asked to come up with all of the contacts the person has been around so that those people can be tracked down. And the official who gave this little press conference I watched said people are cooperating. I got news for you. If you come to my house and you ask me to turn over names of anybody, I will sit in jail till the end of my days before I would turn over anybody I know to anybody in authority right now. Anyway, to go on, the program is starting with 10 employees, and the government plans to hire more in order to find every one of the people who's come in contact with an infected person. Infected people will stay quarantined, and the government will check in with the person every day. Now, some people, this official said, will have trouble being isolated. So if there's only one bathroom in the house and the house is shared with other people, they will take the infected or exposed person out of the house and put them into some type of housing, and the county will provide food, backup, and support. Other counties are collectively hiring thousands of people in California to do the same thing. This is despicable. Despicable. It is Big Brother. It's despicable. Now, Washington State Department of Health, I looked at their website because I was told that they have some choice ways of dealing with this. So they have three strata of responses to quarantine. The first thing is there can be voluntary quarantine where the local health officer feels really confident that the individual will comply. And then involuntary isolation, when the health office is not confident that the person will comply. And in this situation, and this, by the way, they're talking about police enforcement and fines and things like that. And so arrangements need to be made sometimes to locate a judge in the case of emergency who will order the person to be quarantined. So there will be some type of legal order. And then a court order for involuntary isolation, where the person can actually be hauled out of their house and taken to another facility to be guarded because they can't be trusted with being home alone. And then here's some language that'll really make your heart sing. Although it's not legally required, you may want to provide individuals who are released from quarantine or isolation with a letter or some written document that formally recognizes their cooperation and release and reduces the chance that they may be mistakenly reported for not complying with a quarantine or isolation request order. I mean, what is this country coming down to? Now, while all this is going on, you'll love this. Many of the people who are in favor of all of this apparently don't think it applies to them. So Neil Ferguson, you've heard me speak about him. He's the person who created the now famous Imperial College of London model that turned out to be wrong, 96% off. That's what Fauci and Birx and all these people have used as the reason for locking everybody down for such a long period of time. And apparently, however, Ferguson, who's done this before, by the way, this is not his first rodeo of coming up with data that are completely irrelevant and health authorities going off the deep end and following his directions. So health professionals do not learn from previous experience. No matter how bad things are based on previous experience, they do it again and again. Well, anyway, he must think that it doesn't apply to him because he actually had his married lover visit his home in England on a couple of different occasions. And when he got caught, he resigned his position and acknowledged that he made an error in judgment. Scotland's chief medical officer, Catherine Calderwood, resigned after being caught near her family's second home in a different part of the country than her main address. By the way, the same thing happened with billionaire Pritzker, who's the governor of Illinois. His wife thought it was okay to go to Florida, I think was their second home. So it's always the rules apply to other little stupid people like you and I, not to the powers that be, but this one is the best of all. Former President Barack Obama went golfing at the Robert Trent Jones Golf Club. He's a member there. It's 40 miles from his home, and he was taken there by a government chauffeur. Pictures of the former president golfing show that the golf course was empty, and the reason is that all of the citizens of Virginia and Washington, D.C. are under quarantine. They're not allowed to play golf. 2 days later, and this is the best part, residents in this area got a public service announcement on their phones recorded by Michelle Obama, who was asked to do this by government officials. And here's the transcript from the message. Remember, we urge you to stay home except if you need essential health care, essential food or supplies, or go to your essential job. Apparently, in the Obama family, playing golf is an essential activity. It's just not for the little people like you and I. You know, here's the thing. We just have to get to the place where we understand that these very important, educated, powerful people, they're so much smarter than we are. They don't need to follow the rules. I mean, they need to set the rules for stupid people like me. Apparently, the writer earlier thinks I'm a really stupid people, but you just got to wonder, who are the stupid people here? But in any case, they set the rules for stupid people like you and I who can't be trusted to make decisions for ourselves. So thank God we have them to tell us what to do. And of course, they would be exempt from all of this because they're exempt from everything. And while we're on the topic of exempt, I have come up with a great idea for the governor of Ohio and the medical director, Dr. Amy Acton, if they really want to get in front of the camera and talk about being in this together. And I think this would be a great idea for all of these people promoting these policies. I think the governor and Dr. Acton ought to, first of all, take their salary every week and give it to the food bank in Central Ohio, which is really running low on food, and there are a lot of hungry people. And then I think that they should begin living on what the average person is getting in unemployment benefits every week. And that means that pretty soon, I'm sure Dr. Acton's beautiful Bexley house would be going into foreclosure, and maybe Governor DeWine, I don't know how much money he has saved up, but we shouldn't let him touch it, because most of the people on unemployment, they're not millionaires. I think that if these people were forced to live the way that they're asking other people to live, we might see some changes. And apparently, in many areas, the officials aren't living the way that other people are living. They can't even abide by the rules of travel and golf, and I mean, it's just unbelievable. So I know that today I sound a little bit angry and hostile. I am really angry and hostile about all of this, and I guess I keep asking this question: why isn't everybody else? All right, well, this week we'll have broadcasts every day, Tuesday through Friday. If you're interested in anything we do here, and we offer a lot of cool stuff, remember my email address is pampopper@msn.com, and I will be back to you tomorrow with more news.